Say action, cheese it up.
Action.
All right. So, episode 47 of Inside Real Estate. Today we got Pete McGuinn. Pete, thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yep. So for people who don't know you, give us a quick rundown of who you are. Give us a little background on yourself.
Sure. My name is Pete McGuinn. I work for RE/MAX. I've been in the industry about 23 years. I started right out of college. I service primarily Delaware County, Chester County, a little bit of Philadelphia. And I'm a full-time agent, have been since day one. And just love the industry, love helping people, both buyers and sellers, and just really enjoy working in an industry where we get to make people's dreams happen every day. I know it sounds corny, but it's just the fact.
Where were you in life when you decided to make the move into real estate? How'd that happen?
Okay, fair enough. I'll try to give you the quickest version of this humanly possible. But so it all started when I went to college, my first year. I took a year off at the very last minute, and I put my college acceptance on hold. I went to Westchester. The Westchester University put my admission to the university on hold, but forgot to put my dormitory on hold. I didn't realize this until I drove to college on my first day with like a car full of my stuff, and I realized they had nowhere for me to stay. So at that point, I went on to like a crude version of what became, I guess, Craigslist, where at the time when people posted on Craigslist, it posted their names. So I looked up a rental in Westchester, and I saw a name of one of my friend's older brothers. So I reached out and said, hey, are you looking for a roommate? Those guys had all graduated recently from Penn State and were coming to Westchester as like their first apartment outside of college. I was looking for a place to live as an incoming freshman in college. So I ended up staying with them for a year. And it was like during that time period that I kind of realized really quickly that your expectations in a rental property were not great. You're going to get something that was maybe a little bit run down. Landlords weren't responding super quick. So from a landlord's, like from a tenant's point of view, I didn't understand the model. But from a landlord's point of view, I did. So fast forward additionally 1 year, my sophomore year in college, I bought my first property. And that's kind of how things took off. So I bought my first place as a sophomore in college. I continued to buy places all through college. By the time I graduated, I had 10 rental properties, or thereabouts. Maybe by the time I had 10, it was a year or so after. But it was all kind of spurring from that point. And then one of my neighbors at the house that I bought for myself, which was in media, one of my neighbors came up to me one day and said, "What are you planning on doing when you graduate from college?" And I said, "I'm not really sure." And he said, "Look, we're flipping about 25 houses a year. We would love it if you would get a real estate license. We would be your first customer." And so that's kind of how it happened. It was just an off chance conversation. I was content with just buying properties. All the properties that I bought for sale by owner that I bought off market. So becoming a real estate agent wasn't something that I had considered. Being in real estate was, but it was that conversation with that person.
Okay, so you were already like being somewhere connected with the industry was kind of in the cards, but you weren't sure you were going to be an agent.
Yeah, I mean, I had every intention on just being a property owner, not necessarily an agent. I was just doing things, at that point, all I was doing was finding properties that I wanted and then just writing letters to people and saying, "Would you sell me your house?" And buying the houses that people were calling me about. Like that. That's how I kind of got started.
Now that's actually like a strategy that like people talk about today. How did you know about that? Did you read a book or anything that kind of put you onto it?
Not particularly. Like I just was driving around. I'd see these cool places, and then I just figured I'd shoot my shot. I figured, what's the harm? If somebody got my letter and didn't want to sell me the house, they just throw the letter out. And if they did, great.
How did you, like at college age, how were you said by the time you graduated, you had 10 properties?
Yes.
So where were you getting the capital for these?
One little caveat is this was during the no doc loan period of our life cycle. So, I always worked a lot. I got my first job at 14. By the time when I did go to college, I was working full time and going to college at full time at the same point. So, with the first property, I actually, once I got through that process, I realized that it was pretty straightforward with the stated income, stated doc, like no doc loans. As soon as I got one, I realized that I could get a lot more, and it wasn't sitting there providing a ton of information to do it. Fortunately, just as a side note, I still have all those. I mean, there's a few. I sold everything that I bought in Chester for different reasons. It just became a little bit too outside of my focus at that point. But all the ones that I bought that time I still own. So I never lost any of them, but they were through stated income loans, which I know had gotten a bad name when the kind of mortgage crisis happened.
Where were they located? Were they like around here? Or around where you lived, or were they?
Yeah, so I had Media, Lansdowne, Eddystone, and Chester.
Okay.
So when I was looking at the models, I was thinking originally of, you have two different ways of investing. You have like a high cash flow, low appreciation model, or a high appreciation, low cash flow model. And because I was a college student, I needed that cash flow to make my process work. So I went with the low appreciation, high cash flow model, which is in those type of areas, that's what you get. So for years, there was almost no appreciation with those properties, but I was getting cash flow on an annual basis. Where in other areas, I would have noticed more of an increase in my appreciation in the value of the property, but I could have been in probably like a negative cash flow situation. But in college, having 10 properties negative cash flowing would have been a disaster.
Yeah, for sure. Now, having all those properties, did you just kind of cover living expenses, or were you able to like cover college?
No, I mean, I still continue to work. I've always looked at them from the beginning as more of a long-term exit strategy than anything else. Yeah. Like I bought them. I think essentially like when I started college, I'm a business major, so I was in business and finance, and the more that we were learning about people and their career paths, the more I kept noticing that a lot of people that made it to where I wanted to go all owned real estate. And so that's kind of what got that ball rolling. But I never was intending on living off of that money in the moment. It was more about having a way that before I even started my career that I knew how I'd be exiting at one point. So it's more about the back end than the front end.
Okay. So, and you said you still own most of those?
I still own all of them except for the properties in Chester. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. One of my clients owned a bunch in Chester, and he's been liquidating them over the last handful of years. He was telling me, I think he bought the first one for like $50, and he's exiting around like $225.
Yeah.
Like,
I still think about it from time to time if it was the right move. It was the right move for me in the moment, but like anything in real estate, when you look backwards, you always see like, oh wow, I wish I held on to that.
Yeah.
How
are you? Have you picked up more since then from the initial 10?
No. So that's funny. So because of the way I designed it, and maybe I've bought a lot of properties since that point, but not as rentals. I've done a lot of fix and flips, but as far as like pure play rentals, no. And part of the reason I think, or part of the justification to myself, is that the way that I went about doing that, I can't do now. Like I found off-market properties that I was able to just buy. The seller and I were able to just negotiate terms, whatever terms made sense for both of us. But now if I want to do that again, where I'm sitting now as a professional real estate agent, I've got to go in and tell the people that they should get their own representation because I'm an expert, because I have the real estate license, right. And they should consult their own real estate agent to figure out if this deal makes sense for them, et cetera, et cetera. And it muddied the waters too much. Mm-hmm. So I haven't. Ironically, I'm looking now, but that's for something totally different.
You say you do flips. Are you still doing flips today?
So we paused on the flips during COVID because originally during COVID, when COVID first happened, we had 2 going on, and all of our work had to stop. So at that point, I think I had over $1 million on the street, and I had people that couldn't show up to work to complete the jobs. So that was a little bit of a worrisome moment.
Yeah.
It wasn't a great feeling having people not be able to come to the job site and the property sitting. So with those properties, I ended up the one I finished just off by myself. Like we didn't have contractors coming because we couldn't. The other one was pretty close to being done. And we had to sell those during that time period where people weren't allowed to look at houses in person. So we sold the one via video, which was crazy. The people were coming in from Seattle for Amazon. They were getting transferred for work here, and they bought it just sight unseen. They never stepped foot in the property until after closing. So, and then the other one was when things opened up a little bit. But that having all that money on the street at that time, it definitely put a little bit of worry into me at that point. And then moving forward, I have a partner that runs the construction end of that business. And he just said at that point, like, numbers are all over the place. it's going to be really hard to kind of do a job the way that we were doing it, because material cost is moving on a daily basis, and trying to get people to come to do the work is moving around, not only from a cost perspective, but even just trying to get people to show up. Right. And it's something that we paused on now for a number of years. But he's off building custom homes and things now, so he found something, and then I've been just doubling down in real estate.
Now, we've been working with you for a little while now, doing like the property marketing for you. We've seen a good chunk of standard residential situations, but it looked like, is your background in the investment and flipping and all of that kind of stuff, has that translated into somewhat of a niche as far as a portion of your business goes, or are you just kind of just use that as experience and now you're just generally a residential real estate agent?
It did for a period of time. And why I say that is, like, pre-COVID, my business looked a lot different than it looks today. So, pre-COVID, we had the flips going on. I represented a large number of banks doing bank foreclosure work. And then with the bank foreclosure work came hedge funds, because hedge funds wanted access to the information of what was coming available. And then a lot of the hedge funds wanted to get into fix and flips as well. So at the time, the business was a lot different than it looks today and made a lot of sense from that standpoint. So my work with the flipping of the houses worked a lot to be able to help hedge funds figure out what they could do as far as renovation costs on houses that they were buying directly from the banks. And all of that made a lot of sense. During COVID, not only did we pause on doing flips, but banks had that eviction moratorium where they weren't allowed to evict people from their houses. And so that paused that end of the business as well, and then paused the hedge funds and kind of so on and so forth, which, as a side note, in the moment, I think was a very good thing. Obviously, to go through and try to work through foreclosures while people weren't able to go to work would have been not only catastrophic, it would have been just wrong. The flip side of that, I think, though, is that there were people, when it comes to foreclosures, and I know I'm going down a rabbit hole here for a moment, but like when it comes to foreclosures, I think people always look at the negative side of foreclosures. And I'm not saying that all foreclosures aren't negative, but there are definitely times where people get themselves into situations with housing that they want to leave from. And when you do, say, like a deed in lieu of foreclosure during a foreclosure process, you could take that 7-year hit on your credit and turn it into a 2-year hit so you can rebound faster. They can release you from the monies that you borrowed and that you don't intend on paying back. They can release you from that burden. And then in cases, we would do a program called Cash for Keys, where the bank would literally be paying people money to help them restart their lives on the back end. My point in bringing up all that is that even those were held up. Like, even people that wanted to leave their house in a way that would allow the bank to take the ownership of the house back, even those weren't able to take place. So even though for the most part that eviction moratorium helped a lot of people, it hurt people too. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people consider. So anyway, going back to your original question, during that time period, I think that all of it made sense, where my access to contractors was helping the banks as they were fixing their own properties, helping the hedge funds as they were buying properties and needed to be fixed, et cetera, et cetera. It was all working together. But at this point, now that most of that is still on it, like foreclosures still aren't back. They're still working through the process of trying to get that.
Do we have a big backlog that we're waiting on?
I think there definitely is a backlog. I don't know that it's huge, but I know, like, I represent houses and properties now, especially in Philadelphia, where the banks have foreclosed on the properties years ago, and Philadelphia County will not process their deeds. So until that deed is processed, it's just sitting there in limbo. The question is why? Is it, I don't have the answer, frankly, but I wonder at times, like, is it a way of trying to be cautious what I'm saying here? Not manipulating numbers, but saying, like, hey, our eviction rate is not increasing, but is it not increasing because it's not increasing, or is it not increasing because you're jamming up the system and not transferring deeds over, so that when you do a deed search, everything's still showing in prior property owners' names and not Wells Fargo or Bank of America or whatever? I don't have the answer. And to be honest with you, I have banks call me all the time saying, why is this taking so long? I don't know this as my own fact, but based on what the bankers are telling me, like Philly is one of the worst.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the reasoning is. Is there a backlog? Sure. There certainly is. I look at properties, I won't say every day, but I look at properties weekly for banks. They're sitting vacant. They're sitting there going through the process. The process is just a lot slower. The process has always been slow, though, even during prior COVID times. Like, you could have a situation where a house took 2 years or more between the start of the process and the end of the process. It just depends.
Yeah.
It just depends. The longest one I've ever seen was 12 years. 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And look, it was a particular owner. When I met her for the first time, she was still in the property, and she just knew how to work the system. She was very good at knowing when to declare bankruptcy, how to do it, how to pull different triggers. And the first day I met her, actually, she was having granite countertops installed in the house. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, I want the place to look nice. The bank will never get me out." So, every day is interesting in this business, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
I still haven't answered your original question, so I apologize. I ramble. Most real estate agents do, so I guess I'm not special in that regard. Going back to today, what do I think I bring to today? I think that my understanding of houses is a little bit different than a typical agent because I've been a part of so many renovations and I've watched them from start to finish. So I think that information that I bring to clients today, being able to point out things that other agents might miss is what I bring from that part of my life into the current stage of my life.
Okay.
Being able to point out problems before they happen or before even people notice it sometimes. I'm not a home inspector. I don't claim to be one, but I think that I've got more knowledge in that regard than a typical agent.
Okay. I think one of the things I was getting at was like, okay, because you have the background you do and you've seen the things that you've done, are some of your clientele the type of people who are interested or asking you to guide them through maybe purchasing flips or doing investments? Do you deal with clients, a good chunk of clients in that aspect?
No, not as much as I used to. You know, that when it comes to working with investors, and I totally get it, the investors will go where the listings are. And at the time where I had a lot of bank foreclosure listings, most of which are sold in as-is condition, pretty rough shape, et cetera, at that point I had investors chomping at the bit because they just wanted access to the information. They wanted to know what houses were coming up, blah, blah, blah. You know, when that access paused, so did the investor. They went to where they had, you know, a lot of people now, because the inventory is limited now, a lot of investors go straight to wholesalers because wholesalers are, you know, are better at finding those deals. They're trying to get as close to like, you know, a wholesaler, meaning like we buy houses or whatever. Like my joke that I say to people all the time is you don't actually see We Buy Houses buying houses. They don't we buy house anything. They we buy paper. You know, all they're doing is buying, and I don't mean to use their name specifically, a company like them, you know, all they're doing is they're getting houses under agreement, and then they're selling that agreement to somebody else for an assignment fee or a consultation fee or whatever that you want to call it. You know, so a lot of investors have gone straight to that source because their ability to find sellers that are looking to sell in as-is condition, quick cash, et cetera, you know, since that's all they do all day, every day, that's where the investors tend to go.
That's getting a little more regulated now, though, isn't it? Because
a little bit.
Because now that they have to be licensed, you used to not be able to have to be licensed if you're that middleman.
Yeah, I mean, that I think that is where they're heading. I don't know that that's quite where they are yet.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, going back to that, like if you have to go through everything that I had to do, where you have to sit down with somebody and say, I'm a licensed professional, you should consult your own licensed professional, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know how that's quite going to work for wholesalers. I mean, I think wholesalers in general, I'm not trying to catch flack for this, but like, I don't find that most of them, not all of them, most of them I don't think are very upfront with what their intentions are. Of course they won't. They're not going to say, hey, I'm going to buy your house for $100,000. And then when you go to settlement, you're going to meet this other person that I sold the house to for $150,000. And I won't, you know, I'm going to collect 50. Like, no, I don't think for a lot of people, they would be open to that. Now I know a couple people that are very straightforward about this is what I do. This is how I do it. I'm going to make a profit. And I appreciate that. I appreciate when people are upfront, but most of the time I find that people aren't.
No, it doesn't sound like if you know, if you put yourself in the seller's shoes, it doesn't sound too enticing when you think about it. It's
well, wait a second. You're going to make, why don't I just make the $50,000?
Right.
You know? And look, again, I'm friends with a lot of wholesalers, and I don't mean to ruffle their feathers or anything, but like the market's the great equalizer. You know, like if you put a house on the market, you will find out what the true value of that home is, period.
It's hard now because it's like you used to, if you're a seller and like, hey, you're thinking about putting it on the market and your neighbor down the street gets wind of it and like, hey, I might have somebody interested. It's like hard to tell them like that's the right move to take something off market the way the market is right
100%. Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, you're still seeing stuff go for over ask. I mean, it's taming down a little bit more.
It definitely is taming down, but especially with that as is inventory, because there's so many people out there flipping houses, buying investments, et cetera, that like you're seeing that kind of inventory get bid up still because people need the work.
Yeah.
You know, I talk to people often. They just say like, I don't even care if I make a killing on this or not. I just need to keep my people moving, you know? So I don't understand. A lot of times people will say like, oh, well, you're just a real estate agent. You just want to make the commission. And like, you don't have to list it with me. Just put it on the market. Like, put it on the market and you'll find out fast enough if you sold it for a fair price or not. But I guarantee you you're going to get more.
Yeah. All right. So briefly on the market.
Yes.
So where would you, you cover a good area. Where would you say the majority of your business that you can speak most, where like you can provide the most expertise? Like what market are you?
I live in media. We could just use media if you want.
Okay. So let's say Delaware County. What are you seeing in the market right now?
So it's funny. I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and they said, again, I'm just going to use media just as a for instance. They said, "Oh, real estate's flying off the shelves. Everybody's getting over asking price." And I said, "Well, I think your information might be just a bit outdated." And they're like, "No, it's everybody's getting more than asking price." And all I did was I pulled up on my phone. So I send myself like a hot sheet every day, which is when a property's listed, I get it via email, just like I send to my consumers. I have them set up for myself as well. And so I have one set up specifically for media, and I pulled it up. And if you look at that list, it was like, if I remember correct, it was new listing, price reduced, price reduced, price reduced, price reduced, price reduced, new listing, price reduced, price reduced, price reduced. So I showed that to him and go, oh, that's not what I've been hearing. It's like, yeah, well, like I think keeping your finger on the pulse of something is important, and people still talking about bidding wars and getting 100K over, et cetera, as if it's a blanket statement is outdated information.
I've been talking with people. It feels like there's two markets. If you have an average home or below average home, you're probably in what agents who have been in the business a while would consider a normal market,
correct,
right? But if you have like a banger house, it's a no-brainer, yada, 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 it's somewhere where everybody wants to be, that's the market where you're still seeing some of that COVID-esque type.
Yeah, no, it's just it's almost back to basics, right? I mean, like the things that check all the boxes, location, Pinterest style, like you go and you're like, oh my God, this house is amazing. Like that'll get the demand, but we're back to basics where, like during the COVID times or whatever, like you would see a house that there would be on the market, you call the agent, oh, we have 8 offers. And then you look back through the MLS history and you'd see that house, I remember there's one house, I don't remember what the address was or anything, but the house was listed 12 separate times unsuccessfully, withdrawn every time, canceled every time, 12 times over years. And now it's in a bidding war. Like that situation where it's like, well, I have a feeling like that might bite in the butt if you're the buyer of that house. Yeah. But if you're buying the house that's in a prime location with all the updates, et cetera, you're still going to get that traffic.
Yeah.
It's just that the average house, if you will, is experiencing more of a typical market. Right. But it's fast. I tell people all the time, when I'm working with buyers now, I said, we need to get through day 7. And why I say because the fast-paced market will work against you very quickly as a seller. If you go into a situation, you're like, we're definitely going to sell this house fast. We're definitely getting over asking price. We're definitely getting in a bidding war. After the first week, you're going to know like, uh-oh, yeah, we're not getting that.
Well, and it does seem like they, marketed properly, everything done the way, ideally, the activity shows up very quickly.
Very quickly.
And it's like, yeah, you do have some sellers that'll want to test the waters and see, what's possible. But like, if you, in some cases go ahead and do it, but if you don't adjust quick, if it's not working, then you're going to screw yourself.
You've got to pivot quick.
Yeah.
You've got to pivot quick. But it's interesting because everybody, I don't blame anybody. Like, for most people, this is not what they do all day, every day, and for most people, the story of having houses be more in an average market is not something people want to talk about at dinner parties.
No.
They want to talk about getting 50K over and 60 offers and yada, yada, yada.
Well, during COVID, you had like the agents is like, okay, let me run the comps, right? But you can run the comps, like the recent comps that were, sold in the last month, and they'll say one thing, but we were in such a period of like going like this that it's like, how do you tell them they're not going to get that?
Looking backwards was not helpful.
Yeah, no. But it does seem like again, coming back to a more normal market. So, okay, let's shift to, so one thing that you said is a strength of yours is with your experience, being able to see things and have an understanding in certain areas that other agents don't have because you have experience.
Sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. With this podcast, we like to talk to the agents about how they're finding success. So where are you finding success in this market? Like, what are you doing? Because you've had a pretty damn good year from...
Yeah. I'll touch on this. Again, I know I'm long-winded, so I apologize.
Yeah, it's all good. Podcast.
Yeah, right. So going back a couple of years, going back to maybe like 23, I had this kind of like wake-up moment. My kids and I, my wife, we watched some movie called Yes Day. It's like Jennifer Gardner, whatever. Anyway, the point of the movie is that the kids got to say what the parents did for the day, and they had to say yes. And I watched that. It didn't, in the moment, resonate with me a ton, but afterwards I thought about it because I was watching, like I said, I probably got about 50% of my business from banks and hedge funds, which went away. So my business was cut in half. And at the time, I was like, oh, this will pick right back up. Like, it'll be fine. I didn't anticipate it being, here we are, going into 26. But in any regard, at that point, I realized that I was so busy telling people everything I wasn't willing to do. Like, people were like, oh, do you want to make a video? I'm like, no, I don't want to be on a video. Do you want to be on a podcast? No, I don't want to be on a podcast. Like, do you want to like do this, that, and the other? No. And it made me realize at one point, like, okay, well, great. Now everybody knows what I'm not willing to do. What good is that? What good is it to tell people what I'm not willing to do? Right. And where has it gotten me? I'm just watching my business kind of fade away from what it was as I'm telling people all these things that were no. So I went in to, I guess really started in 23. I was like, I'm just going to say yes to everything. Doesn't matter what it is. I don't care. I'm going to say yes. So somebody said, do you want to go to this real estate conference? I never went to never ever went to real estate conferences. You want to go to a real estate conference? I'm like, yep. I went to that conference and they said, hey, I never had a CRM. I did everything either with in my head or with Excel spreadsheets. And I got introduced with somebody from a CRM company, and he said, do you want to sign up for a CRM? Yes. Do you want to learn how to use it better? Yes. And then from there, do you want to make a video? Sure. Do you want to do this? Sure. And from that, just saying yes to so many different things, it opened up so many different opportunities, things that I was so closed-minded about. It wasn't just saying no to videos or saying no to posting. Like my social media, I was like a secret agent, I think people call it. Like, I remember I was sitting on the sideline one day at my daughter's soccer game, and I coach a lot of my kids' sports, which I love. But I was coaching my daughter, and my assistant coach, we were sitting there just chit-chatting one day, and he said, what do you do for a living? And now we had coached together for an entire year, not just a season, a full year. What do you do for a living? It's like, I'm a real estate agent. He was like, really? I didn't know. I was like, well, what do you do for a living? He's like, well, I kind of have two different jobs. I have a regular corporate job, but then I also build and sell new construction houses. And I was like, what? And at that point, I'm like, what benefit is it to me to not tell anybody what I do? Like, why, what, who cares? I was afraid that like, if I told people I was a real estate agent, people might think that was pushy. Right. But just mentioning what I do is not pushy. Like, if somebody doesn't want to use me, fine. If somebody doesn't want to follow me on social media, that's great too. Like, but like, I have to be able to tell people what I do, and I have to push that forward. So that was all of that is what changed. My mind, first what changed was my mindset. And then with the changing of my mindset, it opened so many doors that I never thought was possible. So moving forward, like my social engagement is really where a lot of my business comes from now. My YouTube, I'm getting business from that now, which is something I've been working on for about a year now. All of these things that I was closed-minded to for so long, worrying about like what people might think or that it would be annoying or whatever, like getting rid of that thought process in my head is what really changed, was the mindset, really.
Wow. No, I mean, that's powerful. I mean, I wasn't expecting that answer.
Fair.
Okay, so within that, so it sounds like networking kind of is a piece of that.
Yeah, I mean, so part of the yes was I started to do like some community events. I started to volunteer a lot, which got me to meet a whole bunch of new people. Coaching was kind of a little bit of that. I was coaching a little bit, but there was things in coaching that I wasn't doing. Like I started saying yes to that, which got me to meet more people. Saying like literally, I was saying yes to everything. I mean, I was definitely stretched thin during that time period because I was just saying yes to everything, but it opened up so many doors. I got to meet so many new people, et cetera.
Okay. Out of all the stuff you were saying yes to, what are some, from your experience with it, obviously experiences are different, what stuck? What are some things maybe you got rid of that you found weren't working?
To be honest with you, I feel like I still do most of it. I still post almost daily on social media, which was something that I started during that time period. I still actively work on YouTube, which is something I started doing that period. Same with my CRM. I'm in my CRM every day. I was so anti-CRM. I was like, I don't need that. Turns out I did.
Yeah.
That was a game changer. It's so stupid. I'm sure most real estate agents are going to be watching this. Like, what an idiot.
Well, every one of them has a free CRM that comes with their company.
Yeah.
And they don't use it.
Well, yeah. And I didn't want to use that. Again, because I've been with Remax now for 20 years, give or take. You know, and I was like, I don't want it from Remax. What if I switch offices? It's like, dude, and I frankly, I still don't use theirs, but it was only because they weren't the first person to ask. You know? I'm
for sure.
For the person that got me during my yes year, I'm still with. You know, I don't know that there's much that I still say no to because it's just been such a huge benefit. Even the stuff that wasn't like some of this, like the volunteering, like. It's funny. I have people that come up to me or have come up to me and say like, why do you do this? Why are you here? Why are you doing this? And it's like, well, I started because I was just saying yes, but I continue because I enjoy it. Like I like giving back. I like meeting new people. Like I like not just doing the typical real estate stuff every day, like being a part of meeting people and just interacting with my community, I think is amazing. Like I did an event on Sunday. Somebody came up to me at the event. It was for the media does a Santa parade and fun run, and they had that on Sunday. And so I was asked if I would have a booth there and if I would give away soft pretzels and whatever. Yeah. So we had hundreds of soft pretzels, and I bought like little elves to give away to kids and candy canes and stuff. Like if somebody came up to me and said, do you get any business out of doing things like this? And I said, well, this event for me is not about business. Like, yes, I have a Remax banner behind me, but it's just about being a part of the community. Like how cool is it that we're out here and like all of the people from the community are here just to spend time together and watch Santa go down the street. Like my expectation for that is not to generate business. It's just to give back to the community. Like, whether it's through soft pretzels or my time or little trinkets, the little elves or whatever. But like, yeah, that stuff, it all came about because of that yes year or whatever. But like, I don't want to give it up, even if it produces income or not. I don't really care.
Did your enjoyment of the business come from like a moment you had at some point, or did you always like it?
I've always liked it. I will say during the foreclosure years, that could grind on you a little bit. You know, for as much as I talk about like, oh, being a part of everybody's best day, like that was the polar opposite. Like I'm oftentimes being a part of people's worst days, you know, and like that part of things was, you know, when I got into that aspect of the business, the reason why is you know, at the moment, you know, other than the business side of things, like I thought from a business perspective, if I could get a couple of banking clients, then it would be steady work. But I also thought that I could approach people in a more humane way. I saw a way that some of the agents that dealt in that business were a little bit cold and jaded. And I thought, like, there's no reason to kick people while they're down. You're already getting them on their worst day. Like, you can try to be a human about it and make it a little bit of a lighter touch. Those times were hard. And, it's one that we've circled back on a number of times. Like I said, they're not back fully. The question is, if they get back fully at some point, is it an avenue that I want to continue to pursue? Some of my hardest days in the business were in that line. I've had weapons pulled on me before. That was not something that I anticipated. But you're catching people at a low point when they feel like all hope is lost. So, like, I don't fault people. In that one particular instance, like, the one that sticks out the most, ironically, the person who pulled the weapon on me, himself, he made a living by repossessing cars. So, he and I had an exchange where, like, I kind of, like, it was weird. Like, he's holding a weapon. I'm not. I don't carry weapons on me, as a side note. Well, I guess I shouldn't announce that, but anyway. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing foreclosures at this point, so it's fine. But, he pulled out a weapon on me, and I was trying to de-escalate the situation by saying, like, look, all I have is a piece of paper, and you can shoot me, and the bank's not going to care. They're going to send out another person with a piece of paper, and another, and another, and another. And as I was trying to de-escalate the situation, I said, like, what do you do for a living? He said, I repossess cars, which made sense because his property, like, that was a confusing thing. When you look at people and their finances, sometimes it can be quite confusing because I'm pulling up to this house. It's a nice house, a nice community. And outside he had, like, a bunch of Mercedes, bunch of BMWs, a Hummer, yada, 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 whatever. So I was confused. Not that people can't have those things and have financial problems or whatever, but, and he said, I repossess cars, and I lost it. Because I was like, wait a minute. So you have that weapon because you want to feel safe while you're repossessing somebody's product that they're not paying for. And in case somebody comes out, you want to have something to protect you. And now here I am doing essentially your job just with a different asset, and now you're the guy pulling out a gun. And he did apologize, and I didn't call the police or anything. I probably should have. But, like, so my point with that is my wife and I do question at times, like, hey, if this were to come back on, like, is this an avenue of your business you want to go back into? And I don't know, because that end of business did grind me. The other end of the business doesn't grind me at all. I could work 80 hours a week. I love it. It's great. Like, what's not to love? When you walk into a house and that person finds the house that they want and their eyes light up, dude, it's amazing. I've been doing it, like, this is my 23rd year or whatever. Like, I still love it. I love every minute of it. I'm not immune to it. It's not like, oh, just another person, yada, 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 whatever.
It's never the same thing twice. I mean, even in what we do, I mean, we're in one aspect of the business, but it's like every time's different. I mean, there is BS we deal with too.
Yeah, sure.
On a daily basis.
I'm sure.
But
I've moved quite a bit of furniture with you.
But like, throughout those things, I mean, I'm sure as you build relationships with the clients, I mean, we build relationships with our clients, and it's, it's kind of like being in the foxhole together in a lot of ways. Go to your social media. Okay, so you started posting every day. You said a lot of your, leads and whatnot come from there. Are people reaching out to you through social media specifically, or is it coming because, like, hey, they saw you and then they reach out to you, like, phone call or something?
No, it's not coming through, like, DMs and stuff for the most part. It's coming from, like, I'll get emails or phone calls from people, and it's through talking to them that I'm realizing where they're coming from. Like, and you can tell, like, I love, like, YouTube, especially because I feel like with longer forms similar to this, like, when I'm going into a meeting from somebody who's seen me on there, they have a pretty good understanding of who I am. It's not going to be a complete shock. Where, like, I feel like if you're going into a meeting completely cold, it's a little bit harder. I'm going into meetings where people are talking to me as if they already know me because they've watched my content and have a pretty decent understanding of who I am. So it's just like most things with social media. I'm sure you've done it. I do it. I don't mean to, like, be weird about it, but I'm like, oh, I saw you got a new car or whatever. And people are like, wait, what? I'm like, you posted about it. Like, congratulations. Like that sort of thing where, like, people are commenting me about things or saying things. Like I remember I was walking down the street in Lansdowne one day, and they're like, "Hey, I saw your video.
Yeah.
I saw your video."
I mean, that's how we find it. Like a lot of people that we work with, like it's not always the DM, right?
Yeah.
But it is the stuff that you're doing if you're doing it consistently, because your average person doesn't do it consistently.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're doing
hard.
it consistently, it is for sure.
It's time consuming and
it's,
you know,
you need a mindset shift like you talked about, because if you're just if it's just like, oh shit, if you mentally make it a hindrance, that's what it's going to be. You're not going to do it. If you look at it as like, okay, I'm running my business. This is part of running my business, and this is what I'm going to do, and you build it in, it's less difficult.
100%. And I talk to people a lot because I try to encourage other agents to do it. And people say like, well, I don't have any listings at the moment. It's like, who cares? Like, you could talk to another agent and say, hey, would you mind if I shot some content at your, I've done that. People sometimes will be like, what's your intention with it?
What's your angle?
Yeah, kind of. And I'm like, well, I'll mention the fact that you're listing, but like, I think the house is cool. Like, I'm not going to go and like shit on your listing. Like, I just want to shoot it and comment about it or whatever. Or like just any task. Like, it doesn't make any difference what it is. Like, I think that people put up these mental barriers as far as like the same place that I was. So zero judgment, but like nobody wants to see my day. And like, I actually, there was a Instagram post yesterday that I thought was funny, which is actually poking fun of like literally all of this, where it was like, how does a real estate agent think their content's being absorbed? And it was like this guy that was like, honey, check it out. The agents, they're taking a picture of a photographer taking a picture of a house saying photo session. And I've done that to you. I thought about that. I've taken a picture of you photographing it. I was dying. And they're like, oh my God, he's at work again. Like, and like, I get the joke of that. Like, most people aren't like posting about every step of their job every day. But in our world, one, I think that you have to stay in front of people's faces. And two, because you have every different level of realtor. Like I don't mean to be negative or whatever, but you have people that treat it as a hobby, people who only intend on selling like 1 or 2 houses a year, some people that are selling 500 houses a year. Like, if you're not putting out that content to let people know, even like where do you stand in this hierarchy? Like, am I hiring the person that's like literal goal is to sell 1 house a year? Like, or am I working with somebody who treats this as a profession? You know, and I use social media. I look at social media almost like a resume of sorts. Like, and I'll tell people that when I'm on like interviews with listings and stuff. I'll say like, look at my social media, look at other people's social media. Like, I'm not only marketing myself, I'm marketing your product. How do you want that marketed? Do you want it marketed? Because some people will market it constantly and some people will not. And like, I used it in a meeting where somebody was thinking about switching, or somebody had let their agent go and was thinking about hiring me. And I just said, I'm going to go on to all the social media sites. I'm going to plug in your address. Let's see how many times it comes up. And none, 0. It's like, look, as far as social media goes, your house does not exist. Where do you spend your time when you're not working and stuff? Like, when you grab your phone, what are you doing? I'm going on Instagram, I'm going on Facebook, I'm going on this, that, and the other. I said, so wouldn't you like to know that your house is being seen on those platforms? Because right now, it's literally not.
Right. The alternative is to basically do what most agents are doing. Still most agents, it's just the standard cookie cutter posts that are like automated, they don't really do anything. But what you're doing by being consistent is you don't have a listing every day, but by maintaining that attention and consistency, you make the posts you do about the listings when you have them perform better.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't, honestly, I wouldn't want to post a listing every day because then it would just become white noise.
Right.
Like, I want to switch it up. But I used to use those services too. Like, years ago, I used to use some service that just posted on my behalf. You look at at the time, I was like, oh, I'm posting on social media.
Right.
It didn't even occur to me like just how generic and terrible it was. Yeah. And then you look back on the engagement numbers on that and you're like, of course people weren't engaging with it. Like, it's nonsense. It's complete nonsense.
I guess somewhat was kind of effective before people were doing what they're doing today.
Of course. No, but I mean when it was like too generic. Like,
yeah.
Like when it had because you're using a company that's using the same posts for every agent that signed up for them in the entire United States.
Yeah.
So their content needs to be so watered down so that it could apply to all states.
I'm with you. It's like the resistance to moving in the direction that you've taken is so high with some people.
No, dude, I'm proof positive. It was high for me. I just had to realize at the end of the day, like I said, the part of the shifting of my mindset was like, is me not doing this putting food on my table for my children? Like telling people all these things I'm not willing to do. Is that benefiting me at all? No. And it's not. Like I sold this one house because I told them 9 things I wasn't willing to do.
Right. Now, when it comes to so I guess we've been kind of on the how you're finding success for yourself. What are some things or areas that you find success for your clients in?
So I still use that letter thing. I still do that as an agent. I just send it on behalf of my clients. So my clients are looking for something unique or something that doesn't seem to exist. I'll go into public records. I'll find houses that meet that criteria, and then I'll send letters to those sellers. So in some ways, I'm still in the same place that I started, sending letters. And it works. I've got a number of clients' houses that way, off-market houses. Like, I think you have to think outside the box. I've made social media posts specific to my clients' needs where I've created one that I like to use from time to time is I'll use like a Canva, like a wanted poster. And then I'll put on the wanted poster like what my buyers are looking for, and I'll run a targeted ad in a specific area, to try to get information that way, and that's worked as well.
Is it like consistent success with that strategy?
Well, not every client needs that, so it's on an as needed basis.
But I've had it work.
I've had it work several times. Yeah,
nice.
I use the analogy a lot of like the way real estate used to be. So what I mean by that was like when I first started. Everybody listed their house on April 1st. That was the spring market. And if your house, I remember years ago, somebody said like, if your house isn't under contract or sold by June 30th, you're dead. You're dead in the water. And I remember like June 30th in real estate was like one of the busiest closing dates. Everybody wanted it because it was like, that was like the end of your spring season. It was April 1st to June 30th, and then it took a while, it took longer than it should have for people to realize, like, why am I doing everything my competition is doing? Why don't I try to do something different? And so you started to see like, oh, okay, now all of a sudden houses are hitting on March 15th. Now they're hitting on March 1st. Now basically it's all the time. And obviously it's a little bit more weather dependent than anything else, but we're not like calendar based. My whole point with that is that like, if I'm going to be just waiting for something to pop up in the MLS like every other person, what good is that to my clients? Like I need to be thinking of things that are outside the box to help them achieve their goals. So whether that's sending out letters or running wanted poster ads or whatever, like you have to do stuff different if you want a different result.
Okay. I got to ask because I thought it was awesome. I don't know if you can talk about it, but I'm
a pretty open book, so we'll see if you could shut this down.
The story you told me about the hit.
Oh.
Can we like without details talk about this story?
I've since talked to people in law enforcement to see what my obligation is in this regard because it is open still. So I don't know how much I can say, but I'll try to say what I can in a dancing around it what method, I suppose. It's definitely the weirdest thing. I will say like when it comes to real estate. You think you've seen it all, and then something happens like that, and you're like, "Wait a minute." But yeah, I try to figure out how to dance around this properly. But I guess, long story short, I don't know if I should. As I started to talk, I'm saying I'm an open book. I will just say that a client confessed something to me that rattled me a bit. And had me speak to people to see what my liability or exposure would be. I've been told that it's hearsay, so there's not a lot, but I struggle with it. I really struggle with it because it is something that's open. And I've listened to my own podcasts about it because I wanted to know if something that was relayed to me would change the outcome of it or not. The person that I spoke to in law enforcement didn't think that it was enough in there to make progress with it. But yeah, I mean,
it's not really obligation for you to take action past.
No, because I was really struggling. Like it's hard. It has to do with, it has to do with somebody being.
Well, we can move past it. I mean, I get no, totally get it. I mean, it was a wild story.
Yeah, it's a wild story, and one truthfully I still struggle with because it's just, I feel as if, even though it's not, I don't think it's me. I don't think that there's something about what I was told that could help things, but it just lets me know that there's people out there that know things about this story that maybe they should themselves talk about.
Yeah. Okay.
To talk about something in the same line, which was probably my crazier story prior to, that is fine to talk about, was I got called for a listing that I had taken, and it was not in my normal coverage area. And it didn't really occur to me much because they said they found me on YouTube. And so I was like, great, that's perfect, blah, blah, blah. And we're going through the process, and they said, after we were already well into the process, almost at the finish line, they said, do you know where we hired you? And I said, YouTube? Like, sort of. And I was like, then no, like outside of that, no. And they said, well, when we called you, you didn't recognize our address. And I was like, should I have? And they were like, well, you're probably going to Google it now anyway. And I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going to Google it now. And they said, well, our house was there was a double murder suicide in our house. And we were afraid that if we hired somebody locally that they would bring that kind of negative energy about what they knew into the transaction. And when we said our address to you, we could tell that it didn't resonate with you. And so we knew that you would properly market our property without bringing that kind of negative connotation in. And I said, well, it's not a disclosure issue in Pennsylvania. Like, the fact that somebody's life was taken is extremely unfortunate, but it's not a disclosure issue. But still, I thought it was, that one took the cake until the last one.
What did that happen while they were the owners?
No, they had purchased the house from the estate.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't on their watch, so to speak. But I did have to go back to that property one night for something. It was like after hours, it was dark. It was after they moved out, and the story popped in my head. I'm like, I don't usually get scared by much. I wasn't scared, but I was just like, I just had that like eerie feeling. I was like, I don't want to be here.
I've been in a few eerie houses before, and I'm like, I don't, But okay, coming up towards the end, last couple questions.
Shoot.
All right, what do agents suck at and need to get better with, and how would you fix it?
I think agents are terrible at communication. Communication to each other and communication to their clients. I feel like a lot of times when I talk to people that are working with other agents, like, they literally don't know where in the process they are. They don't know what's going on. And like, I can see from a agent's point of view, if the agent's looking at it from like, oh, I'm just going to carry the load. I'm going to do everything, so you don't need to worry. And that's great. And I'd like to do that as well. But I also like my clients to know exactly where we are, so they're not just kind of floating in limbo. So like with my clients, I'll do weekly updates where I'm kind of letting them know, like, when their house is listed, what kind of traffic we're getting. And then when we're under contract, I give them a breakdown of all the dates and everything, just so they know. And then I'm constantly checking, hey, the deposit check's been received. Hey, we're through this section. Hey, we're through this section, et cetera. Because most of the time, what I feel like is that they don't know what's going on. On the flip side, agent communication to other agents is, I think, a big part of the industry that a lot of people miss. What I mean by that is, like, I will call a lot of agents during the course of a day. I get a lot of voicemails. Fine. You could be on appointments. You could be doing a podcast. You could be doing anything. So be it. The majority of people that actually call back is so low. And even with text messages that don't even respond. And like, the thing that people fail to realize is that or I'm not trying to sound judgmental by saying fail to realize, but like when you are in a multiple bidding situation, I've had clients get houses, even if we weren't the best offer, because that other agent on the other side will say, I've done business with Pete before. He's a professional. He'll get it done. We'll get to settlement. Where there are times, I'm in one now, where I had to tell the seller straight up, I've worked with this person before. They suck at communicating. They miss deadlines. It's going to be hard, but we'll do it. I'll take on that. I will do whatever I have to do to get this agent to get this property over the finish line, but it's going to be very hard and we're going to be in the dark a lot. And that hurts. It hurts everybody. It hurts that agent to have that reputation, but it also hurts because you are helping somebody with probably their largest asset purchase or sale, and people want to know what's going on.
Right. They
don't want to be in some dead silent transaction where they're like, where are we? What's happening? What's next?
So how do you fix that? Or
I think agents just have to try hard. They have to be in constant communication. And sometimes that communication is hard. Hey, we haven't had a showing. Hey, I think we need a price reduction. Like, not all communication's rosy, but you just have to put in the effort.
Okay. You mentioned like, okay, the process you have is you kind of like, provide the timeline, the sequence to your clients. So would it be fair to say that a good way for agents to address this if they are one of the culprits is to to start implementing more systems? Because a lot of that is probably, a result of them not having systems in place.
Yeah, for sure. I think systems in general, and look, again, I'm not sitting here judging people. I had no systems until very recently. For as many years as I was in business, I had no systems. I think systems are what set apart the hobbyists from the professionals, if you will. And I again, don't mean in disrespect by that, but like, you are a professional, and you have some people, and you've got all different types of agents. I'm a single agent. I'm different than these mega teams, and I'm different than the hobbyists. But what sets people apart is their systems, because you need to be able to rely on your system so that not only that your clients know where they are in the process, you are up to date with where they are in the process, and know when, with all the technology that we have today, it's really hard to excuse how many balls are dropped.
Okay. Best advice you'd give to an agent looking to have a better 2026 than a 2025?
I would say I talk to a lot of agents that can be pretty negative. And again, being somebody that used to be in that situation, I think you have to break out of that mold. Houses sell regardless of the economy, regardless of what's going on in the outside world. There are always transactions in real estate. So trying to say, oh, well, the economy might be shaky, and it doesn't matter. People still need to transact. People still need to move, whether that's because they're growing or shrinking in their family size, if they're being relocated. There's a million different reasons. You need to stay positive, stay in front of people, and keep trying to do something different, something better than the day before every day. And even if it sounds a little hokey, even if it gets a little tiresome, just staying positive and moving forward, because trying to be self-limiting and trying to explain all the reasons why it's not going to work is not going to benefit you whatsoever.
Great. Okay. Number one piece of guidance for a seller thinking about entering the market right now?
I think interviewing different agents to figure out who really has their finger on the pulse of the market is step one. I see people that are still listing with agents that are giving them that expectation of multiple bidding wars, et cetera, et cetera. To me, that just means that agent probably does not have their finger on the pulse of the market, and you're being a little bit misled. So yeah, I would be interviewing different agents to figure out who has their finger on the pulse. And then additionally, from that point, figuring out what are they doing different than other agents? Are they doing video? Are they doing, I know it sounds crazy to say professional photography, because to me, it's like, that's the minimum. Like, you have to do that today. And like, everybody's online. Those pictures need to be perfect. But I still every day see agents putting up houses with cell phone photos. It's mind blowing to me that they do it, but it's every day. I want to know, do they know the market, and what are they going to be doing to sell my home?
How should a buyer prepare themselves if they're going to be looking to purchase in the next 6 months to a year?
I think trying to, first step first is to get pre-approved. To make sure that, I had somebody the other day, I was talking to them, he said, I don't want to get pre-approved yet, I want to see houses. I said, well, how are we going to look at houses if we don't know that you can afford it? I said, what if we're looking at houses for $250,000 theoretically, and you could buy a house for $400,000 if you wanted to, or vice versa. Like, I normally start there with making sure that everything's in order in that regard, because things might pop up. You pull a credit, they might have a little ding or something, and then it gives us time to deal with it, do a little credit repair, like a rapid rescore if need be. And then additionally, like I like to start with a little bit of a wide net approach, what I tell my buyers, where we're setting a search that might be a little bit wider than what they're anticipating, and then from there shrinking it down along the way. Because I want them, especially if they have the time, I want us to be looking at different areas, just because sometimes knowing what you don't want is as valuable as knowing what you do want. So if you're starting to say like, hey, we've looked at a number of split levels. I really don't want a split level. Okay, great. Now we're scaling that down. Or I know that I said I'd be fine with a half acre, but now looking at some houses with half acres, maybe it's more than I feel like tackling. Let's bring that down a little bit. And you're starting wide and you're kind of narrowing it down. And I think if you have the time, all of that really plays in well with that.
And last question, we ask everybody this. Send us off with a positive message to the world.
Positive message to the world. I will say the positive message that I take away from myself is, no matter how negative the news is on a daily basis, when I go to Wawa, people still hold the door open for me, and I do the same. Just trying to be polite to people and realize that everybody's got their own struggle. And you may have your struggle, I might have mine. Everybody's got theirs. So just try to be friendly to people, try to meet people with a smile, try to hold the door open for somebody, and just try to do something nice that's unexpected for somebody every day.
Awesome. Dude, you're a natural.
Little nervous, but we made it through.
That was a cakewalk for you, man.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That was fun.